So our lesson in this session, or today's session, is all about pre-poll. And yours truly, ang inyong lecturer for today, Mr. Danilo Guzman. So let us continue now having our lesson. Let us start. So ang lesson natin is all about pre-poll. So ano ba yung mga event na nagkakaroon ng pre-poll? Halimbawa, yung parachute. Okay, pre-poll yon. O kaya may hawak ako ng isang object and then i-release ko from a certain height. So malalaglag yan. Or may hawak ako ng papel, iniagis ko vertically upward and then biglang bumalik sa aking mga palad. That is also an application of pre-poll. Now, pre-poll is actually one requirement for us to understand yung konsepto ng projectile. Mahihirapan ka sa pag-intindi ng projectile kung wala kang knowledge about pre-poll and at the same time vector analysis and of course the horizontal motion. Ngayon, tatalakayin muna natin yung pre-poll. Sa pre-poll, lagi lang tayong may tatlong formula na tinatandaan. Same thing with the horizontal motion, laging 3 kinematic equation lang. Lahat ng mga formula na nababasa natin, dyan lahat nang gagaling. Hindi nyo kailangang mag-memorize ng isang katutak na formula dahil lahat ng formula na nakikita nyo, dyan lang na-originate. So, kailangan lang may knowledge kayo regarding about algebra, kung paano ba yung mag-transpose, paano ba mag-cross multiply, paano ba yung ibig sabihin ng literal equation. So, ibig sabihin, kahit science yan, kailangan ninyo ng tulong ng mathematics. So, hindi nawawala ang mathematics. Kapag talaga pinagigiyan mo at seryoso mo yung science, you will realize na importante pala ang mathematics. So, mas mahirap pala ang science kasi kailangan natin ng mathematics. Now, let's proceed. We have these 3 kinematic equations. By is equals to Boy plus or minus GT. Okay, By stands for the final velocity, while Boy as the initial velocity that we have. And then yung G, ito yung gravitational force or acceleration, which is actually also an example of a vector. Ang G ay may value na 9.81 meter per second square. And then T stands for the period of time travel. Okay, yung T, yan ang ibig sabihin yan. Time travel. And then the plus or minus sign that we have, definitely, ano yan depende yan sa situation. Kapag pataas ang movement ng object, aakyat, we usually use the negative sign because it is opposing the real direction of the gravity. Nag-o-oppose di ba? Kapag gravity is laging downward yan. Dahil ino-oppose yung direction ng gravity, dahil paakyat yan, ang sign convention na gagamitin natin will be negative. But if it is a downward pace, yung movement, positive ang gagamitin natin kasi nakataon siya doon sa direction talaga ng gravity na pababa kapag downward. So we use the positive sign. And we call it as actually the kinematic equation number 1. Yan lang ang mamasterin ninyo na formula, including this second one. If we need to solve for the coordinate, the ordinate of the coordinate, the y value of a certain point, we use this formula. Halimbawa, ano na yung height ng object? Ano na yung coordinate ng object sa time na ganito? So definitely, we have to determine the x and the y value. So yan ang makakatulong natin sa paghahanap ng value ng y. Y is equals to Boy t plus or minus 1 half gt square. Again, yung Boy, we call it as the initial velocity, t as the period of time, and g as the gravitational acceleration, having a value of 9.81 meter per second square. And y is the height that we have to calculate or compute. Ano na yung height ng object sa ganitong oras? ano na yung height ng object nung na-reach na nito ang kanyang maximum height na pwedeng marating. Okay? So yan ang ating kinematic equation number 2. Can you still follow? Nakakasunod pa ba?
Yes
Sir?
po, sir.
Yes. Question.
So yung pong kinematic equation number 2, ano po kasi siya? Ano pong gamit niya?
To solve for the height.
Okay po, sir.
The height. Yes.
Thank you po.
Okay. And then, not only that, no, kinematic equation number 2 can also be used in determining the time. But the way we will calculate the time using kinematic equation number 2 is that we can actually proceed to a quadratic equation. Meaning to say, algebra pa rin. And then yung kinematic equation number 1, hindi lang naman ng final velocity ang ating pwedeng kalkulahin dyan. Pwede rin ang initial, pwede rin ang time. For as long as we know our algebra, hindi tayo mahihirapan. Okay, next. The third kinematic equation, we have the square of final velocity or square of By is also equal to the square of initial velocity Boy plus or minus 2Gy. And this is our kinematic equation number 3. Can you still follow, mga anak? Hello? Are you still there?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. Pakita kayo ng konti sa akin kahit na isa lang nakikita ko. Okay? Yan. Okay, so let's proceed. Assuming may hawak akong object. Hawak ko yan. Itatapon ko yan papataas. So papaitaas yan. So yung object natin, assuming ang velocity na in-apply ko nung itinapon ko ang object pataas is 25 meter per seconds. So yan ang amount of velocity that I have applied to the object before I threw it upward or during the time that I threw it upward. Tinapon ko papaitaas. So ito yung movement siya. Paunti-unti, umaakyat ang object, but ang pag-akyat ng object, definitely class, may hangganan. And assuming yan na yung hangganan na kayang abutin ng object dahil sa amount of velocity na aking ini-apply, 25 meter per seconds. Whether we like it or not, the object will stop at a certain level. Hindi pwedeng hindi uminto yan. Can you follow? Nung uminto na ang object sa taas, dahil uminto yan, ang final velocity natin is 0. And that is By. Okay, take note, kapag papaakyat ang object, ang movement natin, or ang event is upward, ang sign consideration natin or sign convention ng gravity is always negative. Take note of that. Negative. Nakukuha ba niyo yung konsepto? Nakukuha ba?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. So ang final velocity natin, dahil uminto ang object, definitely that will be 0. Now, what is being asked here is the time rise. Nung itinapon ko ang object papataas, that time na uminto ang object ay yun ang hinahanap natin. Hindi ba ang final velocity sa taas is 0? So ano yung time na yung object na-reach na niya yung kanyang maximum height? So we call that one as time rise. Yun ang hinahanap natin. Can we follow? Okay? So uminto ang object sa taas, inaanap ang time rise. Nung uminto ang object sa taas, ano yung oras na na-render na ng movement natin, ng object natin? Ano yung na-consume na time nung na-reach ng object ang kanyang hangganan sa taas? And not only that, we can also actually calculate for the maximum height. Ano ba yung height na naabot ng object nung na-reach niya yung kanyang hangganan? And at the same time, ano yung oras? We can compute for that actually. For as long as we know our initial velocity, we can compute everything. Isa lang ang given. Pwede mo nang hanapin ang maximum height. Pwede mo rin hanapin ang time rise. And in fact, halimbawa lang, no? Umabot ng 3 seconds yung time rise natin. Kahit na hindi pa ako nakakalculate. Pwede rin itanong, ano yung height na naabot ng object sa oras na 1 second? Ano na yung height ng object sa time na 1 second? Ano na yung height ng object sa time na 2 seconds? Pwede yung kalkulayin yun. For as long as you follow the concept. Lagi nyo tatandaan, kapag papaakyat, negative ang value ng gravity. Okay. Now, our first problem here is to calculate for the time rise. So, paano pa kalkulayin ang time rise? Di ba't may 3 kinematic equation na kung pinakita sa inyo kanina? Tatlo sila, tama? Kapag time rise ang hinahanap, lagi niyong tatandaan, ang gagamitin natin is kinematic equation number 1. Ano nga ba yung kinematic equation number 1, John Edwin?
Sir, Vy is equals to Voy plus minus GT.
Okay.
G times.
So, GT. Okay, so ito siya, no? So, yun yung kinematic equation number 1 natin. So, paano natin siya gagamitin? So, ganito lang. Yung email natin, papaakyat, isn't it that we have our initial velocity? Tama? And we also have the value for our final velocity sa upward phase. By0, Boy is 25 meter per second square. But the movement is upward, therefore we will choose negative among the positive negative here. Tama? Tingnan nyo. Bakit ginawa kong 0 yung By? Kasi ang value ng By is 0. Boy will be retained kasi may value. Ang G ginawa kong negative kasi nga ang movement papataas. Can you follow? So I choose to consider the minus sign because yun talaga ang sign na gagamitin. And then what is T? T in this equation will play the role of TR, yung hinahanap natin. Iyan. Kaya yung T naging T rise kasi yan ang magiging function niya. Ang hanapin ang T rise. Now, if I am going to transpose one of the term, yung negative GTR, transpose ko, magiging ganyan yan. Tama? O kaya yung BOY, lilipat ko, magiging negative, but negative and negative will be cancelled. Magiging positive. Ganito yan, anak ko. I have transposed this one to the left. So GTR is equals to BOY. Same as BOY is equals to GTR. That's why we have changed the sign. In algebra, when we transpose a term, we always change sign. Tama ba? Can you follow? Nakakasunod?
Yes,
Okay. So next, since TR ang hinahanap natin, ano man yung quantity or ano man yung term na nakamultiply kay TR, ipang-divide ko both sides. Ano ba yung term? Ano ba yung variable na nakamultiply sa TR? Diba G? So, i-divide ko ng G ang right, i-divide ko ng G ang left. So, makakancel ang parehong G sa right. Then, matitira na lamang is TR. That is why we have this equation now. TR is equals to BOY over G. Now, we have actually derived a formula. Yan na yung formula natin sa paghahanap ng time rise. Ikinuwento ko lamang kung paano nakuha yung formula na yan. Hindi kasi pwedeng hindi mo alam ang konsepto at nag-memorize ka lang ng formula. Kailangan kabisado ninyo yung time rise. And you know what? You will be a teacher in the future. You will also teach what I taught to you this time. So, kailangan yung makapasa ng board para makapagturo. And then, yung substance na nakukuha natin ngayon, ta-transfer ninyo sa ibang mga kabataan. Kumbaga yan tinatawag nating pay forward. Diba? So, TR is equals to BOY over G. And since may given tayo ng G, alam naman natin ang value ng G at ang BOY, kaya nag-substitution na lang. Ibig sabihin yan, nung itinapon ko ang object using the amount of velocity, initial velocity of 25 meter per second, sa oras na 2.55 seconds. After 2.55 seconds, iinto ang object sa taas. Ang velocity niya sa taas is 0. Yan ang kanyang time rise. Klaro ba ang pagkakahanap natin ng time rise?
Yes, sir.
In your activity, papalitan nyo lang yung value ng BOY. And take note nang hindi tinitingnan yung drawing natin. Kayo ang lilika. Palilikahin ko kayo ng mga samples. Okay? So, BOY, 25 meter per seconds. Nahanap natin ng time rise na 2.55. Now, for the second stage, hahanapin naman natin ng Ymax. Now, bago natin mahanap ang Ymax, as we continue the concept, ang object na itinapon mo, kahit uminto yan sa taas, definitely, bababa uli yan. Babalik yan sa pinanggalingan. Can you follow? This is the concept of ripple. Now, doon sa taas, okay, from top to bottom, dahil ang movement is pababa, ang gravity natin, ang sign convention na niyan, is already positive, hindi na negative. Dahil sunod na sa direksyon talaga ng gravity. Kaya positive ang sign na gagamitin natin. Did you get it? Now, sa pinakataas, balikan ko lang, no? Ano man yung velocity na na-obtain natin dito, nung uminto yung object, di ba, kung iniagis yung object, ang BY is 0, uminto yung object final velocity yan. Ang dating final velocity sa taas, magiging initial velocity sa pagbaba ng object. Yun naman ang magiging initial velocity natin sa downward phase. Whatever you get with the final velocity doon sa upward phase, yung final velocity natin sa upward phase, yun naman ang magiging initial velocity sa downward phase. Naintindihan ba natin? Klaro ba? Halimbawa
Yes po, sir.
BY equals to 0. Final velocity. Sa downward phase, ang BY equals to 0, yun naman ang magiging initial velocity natin. Okay, so let's proceed. Again, let me repeat the event, the situation. Aakyat ang object at iinto yan sa taas. Kung itinapon ng object, may initial velocity na 25 meter per seconds. At ang kanyang final velocity nung huminto sa taas, 0. Sign convention kapag papakyat ang object, gravity is negative. Nung huminto ang object sa taas, nakarender siya ng oras na 2.55 seconds. Ito yung starting level at ito yung end level ng object. Ngayon naman ay ating kakalkulate ang maximum height. So paano natin mahanap ang maximum height? Tandaan ninyo, ito no, kapag time rise sinaanap, equation number 1 tayo lagi. Kapag naman maximum height, ang ginagamit natin, kinematic equation number 3. Ano nga ba yung kinematic equation number 3 natin? Pakibasa nga dyan, Edwin. Alam ko, nagtitake down note ka.
By squared is equals to VOY squared plus 2GY po.
Okay, plus or minus 2GY. Okay, so that's it. Now, we have to solve now for the maximum height. But first, we have to learn how to derive a formula. Hindi pwede kasi natuturo ka, ibigay mo lang yung formula sa bata. O ito yung formula ng maximum height. Kailangan ituro mo kung paano na-derive yung formula. Yun ang trabaho ninyo. The future, magiging guro kayo. Huwag lang ninyong maging golang pumasa sa licensure examination. Kung gusto nyo makasiguro pumasa kayo ng licensure examination, ang punteriyahin ninyo ngayon pa lang, yung mga tuturuan ninyo. Magiging maganda ang effect niyan. So paano ko matutulungan ang estudyante ko na matutunan niya ang ganito? So kailangan alam ko rin i-derive. Hindi yung ibibigay mo lang sa kanya yung formula. So mag-derive ka. In that manner, in that kind of behavior, definitely papasa ka sa board. Kasi hindi lang yung goal mo yung pansarili sa'yo, goal mo yung mga tuturuan mo. Okay, so ito yung ating kinematic equation. Now, how will I use this? First, may BOY tayo. Na-given, tama? May BY tayo, di ba? May BOY din. Ito siya. May value tayo ng BOY. May value tayo ng BY. Definitely, may value tayo ng gravity. Am I right? But the movement is upward. That's why I use negative. So let me pick negative. And then to continue, ang BY magiging 0 yan. 0 square equals BOY square minus 2GY na. Kasi pinili ko na yung negative. Diba plus or minus kanina yan? So I choose negative. And at the same time, what is the role of Y here? Sa formula, ang role ng Y is Y max kasi yan ang hinahanap natin. So ang gawin ko ngayon, ito siya. Magiging ganyan na yung equation natin. Little by little, nakakapag-derive tayo ng formula for Y max. Nasusundan ba ninyo yung concept?
Yes po.
Yes,
Yes
any
po.
question?
Di ba po yung sabi nyo, i-Y max po, sabi po, ano yun natin,
Lakasan yung boss, anak.
yung pong,
Ano yan?
di ba po sabi nyo, ang pagpataas po nila dito ang pagpapala.
Kapag paakyat ang object, we always use or choose the minus sign. Because the real direction of gravity is downward. At dahil sinasalungat mo ang talagang direksyon ng gravity na papaba, we will use the negative sign. Because the direction of the movement here is opposite to the real direction of gravity. Tama? Kaya nga, Paul. Dahil nag-oppose sa Paul, nag-upward ka, we will use the negative sign convention. Anyway, it is just a direction. Can you follow? Negative and positive only shows us the direction of the object. Can you follow? Okay, tandaan niyo, kapag paakyat, dahil sumasalungat sa talagang direksyon ng falling object, negative ang gagamitin natin. Kapag ngayon, umaayon naman sa direksyon ng object na pababa, positive ang gagamitin natin. When there is an opposition, we always use negative. Can you follow? Okay? Hello? Malinaw ba?
Yes po, sir.
Yes po.
Okay. As we can see here, we can transpose this now to the left. Yung negative 2GY para maging positive. And here is it. Yan. BOY square is equals to 2GY max. Pares lang yung 2GY max is equals to square of BOY. No? Pinagbaliktad ko lang dyan. And since ang hinahanap natin is maximum height or Y max, both left and the right of the equation must be divided by 2G. Para ang matira na lang sa right is Y max. So, di-divide ko both sides ng 2G. So that our formula will then be like this. So, yan na ang formula natin ng maximum height. Na-derive na natin. Can you follow? Kasi sa mga books, ibibigay lang yung formula. Sometimes they do not discuss kung paano nakuha yung formula. They will not even give you the concept like this. Can you follow?
Yes po.
So we
Yes,
can now
boss.
actually calculate for the maximum height. Direct substitution, we already have the value for G and the BOY. So direct substitution, yeah, it will be the square root of 25 all over 2 times 9.81. And we can actually have the height of 31.86 meters. Sa oras na 2.55 seconds, yan ang height na kayang lakbayin ng object papaytaas bago ito uminto. Can you follow? Now, afterward, na naabot na ng object ang kanyang maximum height na kayang marating sa oras na 2.55 seconds na kanyang na-consume at uminto ang object sa taas, take note of this. Bababa uli ang object sa kanyang pinanggalingan. Okay? At ang sign convention ng gravity sa downward phase will now be positive. Take note. Ano? Naintindihan ba natin? Can you follow?
Yes po, sir.
Nakadalawa na tayo. Now, what will be the next na hanapin natin? So we'll now be proceeding to the third problem. Same problem lang yan. Again, ulitin ko lang. Yan. Initial velocity. Uminto ang object sa taas. Pagkatapon ko. Sign convention is negative since upward ang phase. Noong uminto ang object sa taas, na-consume siya ng time na 2.55 seconds. At ang naabot niyang height, 31.86 meters. Yan ang kanyang hangganan. Ito yung starting level, yun naman ang end level. And then, yan. Kung ano yung final velocity natin na By is equals to 0, here, yan ang final velocity, no? In this case, ang By is equals to 0, yan naman ang ating initial. Can you follow? By is equals to 0, sa downward phase, yan ang ating new initial velocity. And then, bababa ang object sa kanyang pinanggalingan, iinto yan sa baba. Masasapumuli yan eh. Siya naman ang ating inaalap ngayon, ang BFY. Ano na ang final velocity ng object? Okay. Actually, kung ano yung initial velocity, kung ano yung amount na in-exert mo, yun din ang babalik sa'yo. Whatever you give, yun din ang marireceive mo. Can you follow? Ano man
Yes,
yung
po.
amount na in-exert mo, yun din ang babalik. But we have to see that. Not just by word. Kailangan makalculate natin na talagang equal. Okay, downward, gravity is positive. Now in this case, what kinematic equation do you think we're going to use? Well, guess lang. If you will choose among the three formulas that I gave you, the three kinematic equation, which among them is better to use? Hello? Actually, all of them are applicable. Kaya lang, mas mainam na gamitin ko na yung kinematic equation number 3. Okay, can you follow? So I will use kinematic equation number 3. But, paano ko gagamitin? Kaya ang By score natin dito, ito yung final sa kinematic equation, no? Ito yung initial. Okay, can I see you for a while, Jan? Okay? Ang By is initial, ang By is final. But ang pinag-uusapan natin is actually this event. Event of movement na downward. Ito siya. Dito yung focus natin eh. Diyan eh. Pababa. Tapos na tayo sa pag-akyat. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung initial natin, yung By. This is our initial. This is our final. So, By, papalitan yung Boy. Yung BFY, papalitan naman yung By. Can you follow? Okay, so let's proceed. Kaya magiging ganyan ang equation natin. And then, dahil ang kabuuang height naman ang pinag-uusapan, same height lang naman, doon sa taas, sa top level, sa bottom level, ang Y mo, Y max pa rin. Ito siya. Naintindihan ba ninyo kung bakit Y max ang nilagay ko? Kasi same item. Wala naman nagbago. Can you follow? Okay. Now, since By is 0, ang By natin, ito, magiging 0 yan. That's why we'll have this. And then afterward, we have this. BFY square is equals to 2gy max. But in order to calculate for BFY, we need to extract the square root of both sides. Extract ko ang square root sa magkabilang panig, magkabilang side ng equation natin. I will extract the square root of this. And same thing here. That is why we already have this equation now. Yan. Kumpulin ko lang yung ibang mga nakasulat, no, para hindi magulo yung ano natin. Yan. Did you get it? Now we already have the formula for the final velocity, and what we need now is just a direct substitution. Direct substitution tayo. Kapag nag-direct substitution tayo, 2 times 9.81 times 31.86, and the square root of that is 25 meter per second. As we can see, equal lang yung initial sa final. And proven siya. Pwede mo lang sabihin ngayon, pwede ka lang mag-conclude na ang initial is also final. Kung yung effort na in-exert mo, yun din ang babalik sa iyo. Kung yung itinalim mo, yun din ang aalihin mo. Tama? Can you follow? Okay, so that's it. Now we have already calculated 3 elements of our problem. The time rise, the maximum height, and the final velocity. Now, ito yung susunod na tatalakayin natin. Same scenario, same problem. Time down. Ano yung oras na iginugol ng object mula sa taas hanggang sa baba? Nakailang minuto siya. The truth is, ang time rise equal lang sa time down. Kaya lang, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na ganun lang sa estudyante mo. Kailangan ipakita mo kung paano naging equal ang time down sa time rise. Still, we have to calculate that. So again, let me repeat this scenario. Yan. Di ba kanina ganyan? Yun yung mga data na nakuha natin. Nung pag-akyat, yun yung top level, ito yung bottom level. And then muling nagsimula ang object sa taas, bumaba yan. Nag-start sa taas sa initial velocity na 0. Ang dating final, naging initial. And then ang BFY, nahanap na natin. Napatunayan natin na equal lang sa initial velocity ang BFY. Parehong 25. And then, inaanap ang time down. And then, alam naman natin na kapag downward, ang value ng gravity is positive. Can you still follow? Nasusundan ba natin ang konsepto?
Yes po.
Jan.
Sir, paulit lang po yung last part. May na-distract lang po ako, sorry.
Okay, dito ba? Dito?
Opo, sir. So, may pababa na po.
Okay, di ba yun yung object? So, pababa yan. Ang initial velocity ng object natin dito is kung ano yung dating final nung pag-akyat. Di ba ang final velocity sa pag-akyat is Vy is equal to 0? Whatever we obtain with the final velocity doon sa upward phase, yun ang ating magiging initial velocity. Vy is 0. So kumbaga parang rinelis mo ang object, wala kang in-exert na effort, wala kang in-exert na velocity. Binitawan mo lang, lalaglag uli siya. Yan. And that's it. The final velocity is 25 meter per second. And we have proved this already na equal lang sa Vy doon sa previous calculation natin. At this stage, ang inaanap natin is time down. Alam niyo ba na ang time rise at ang time down equal lang? Pero hindi pwedeng hanggang statement lang na sabihin mo sa student mo, kailangan i-prove mo sa kanya kung paano magiging equal ang time rise at time down. At ano ba yung formula ng time down? Bakit equal sa T rise? And then take note, again, the gravity, the sign convention is positive. So, ang pinag-uusapan natin is the downward phase. So, tingin natin yan laging nasa right. Okay, but how do we